My name is John Cooper, and I'm just an average American guy. I have a wonderful wife, Linda, 2 loud kids, a mortgage, a car that starts only when it feels like it, and a job that pays just enough for us to afford family pizza nights on Fridays. We live in Colorado, the land of mountains, snow, and a place where winter barbecues are totally normal, even if you end up with icicles on your eyelashes. Linda is the queen of the kitchen and the goddess of discounts. She can turn last night's chicken into a gourmet dinner and always knows where to find the cheapest gas. Emily and Zach are mini hurricanes who can turn our living room into a disaster zone in under 5 minutes. But life would be boring without them. That day started just like any other. After work, I stopped at a gas station, not because I wanted to, but because my trusty Toyota decided it was out of gas, even though I was sure I had enough yesterday. I grabbed a coffee, the chips. No, John, you promised to cut back on snacks, and then my gaze landed on the Powerball lottery tickets. Well, you never know, I muttered under my breath and, without overthinking it, slipped a ticket into my pocket. The morning started like usual. I woke up with a slight feeling of hunger, exhaustion, and the suspicion that I had forgotten to do something important. Linda was already up. She always gets up early, like she has some kind of superpower to control time. The fridge was practically empty, but you know what? Linda always finds a way. The kitchen smelled like fresh baked goods, as if some magical bakery fairy had visited us overnight. I mumbled something about making eggs and toast, but Linda had other plans. "Oh no, today you're getting the full package of vitamins and carbs," she declared, flipping some vegetables on the stove like she secretly owned a 5-star restaurant. I thought breakfast was supposed to be simple. A bowl of cereal, some milk, and that's it. But nope, apparently, today was special. I grabbed a box of cereal and, hold on, something fell off. Instead of the usual little bag inside, there was a piece of paper. "Are you serious?" I thought, trying to figure out what kind of prank this was. I unfolded the paper and read the words. "Congratulations, you've won." Linda turned around, laughing. "Oh, come on, that's just some marketing gimmick. Stop reading nonsense, John." But I wasn't giving up. I pulled out the lottery ticket I had bought the day before and started checking the numbers. The print, the numbers. And suddenly, reality started slipping away. "Linda, you won't believe this. We won. We actually won Powerball," I yelled, jumping around the kitchen like I had just been crowned king of the universe. Linda gave me that look, the one that says, "Is this another one of your dumb jokes?" "Are you okay, John? Are you absolutely sure?" "I'm absolutely sure. Look, see for yourself." I shoved the ticket into her hands. It was a little crumpled, like it had barely survived the depths of my pocket, but it was real. She stared at it, and I swear, she started shaking. Enter shock mode. "John, are you serious? Did we actually win?" I grabbed her in a hug, carefully, so we didn't send cereal flying all over the kitchen. "Eggs? Forget eggs. Breakfast? Forget breakfast. We were millionaires now. 214 million. I yelled, nearly dropping my phone into my bowl of cereal. Linda, who had been frozen in shock up until this moment, suddenly snatched my phone and stared at the screen, blinking so fast she could have powered a small Christmas tree. "John, wait. Let's stay calm. No need to panic. Okay, where do I check this again?" She started frantically tapping at random buttons while our son, Zach, chewing on a massive chunk of toast, lazily muttered, "Mom, maybe you should Google what to do after winning the lottery first." We looked at each other. Linda spun toward me, her eyes blazing. "John, we just won $214 million. What are we going to do?" I thought about it. Honestly, I felt like this was the kind of moment where a man should say something wise, profound, something like, "Honey, our lives are about to change forever," or "We can finally make our dreams come true." But instead, what came out was, "Wanna order pizza?" Linda closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and I swear, she was counting to 10 to stop herself from throwing a plate at me. "Pizza? John, we just became millionaires, and you're thinking about pizza?" "Well, we always have pizza on Fridays. Traditions, you know. Dear God, give me strength." She took a step back, gripping the phone tightly, deep in thought. Meanwhile, Zach and Emily, who had been eating breakfast like nothing happened, suddenly perked up. "Dad, can I get a giant trampoline?" Zach asked excitedly. "And a pony," Emily chimed in. I rolled my eyes. "Sure, and we'll build you a castle too, princess." Linda turned back to me so fast I thought she'd snap her neck. Hands on her hips, eyes burning. "Oh boy, here we go. Listen to me, John Cooper. We have $214 million. We are not going to waste it on nonsense. We will be responsible, mature adults, understow." "Ooh, what if we buy an island?" I interrupted, rubbing my chin thoughtfully. John, all right, the island can wait. We stood there in our kitchen, surrounded by cereal crumbs, half-drunk coffee, and the overwhelming realization that our lives had just turned completely upside down. And this was only the beginning. 214 million, John. Linda repeats for the 5th time, pacing around the kitchen. We can do whatever we want. I sit at the table, lazily poking at my cereal. The kids have already run off to watch cartoons, and I still feel like I'm trapped in some surreal dream. Although, judging by the 10-page list Linda just put together, this is definitely real life. Okay, I say, let's start with the craziest idea. Linda takes a deep breath and lights up like a Christmas tree. We buy an island. We build a villa, have our own beach, coconuts, palm trees, parrots that say, "John, bring me a beer." Sounds tempting, but where would we get Wi-Fi? All right, next idea. We buy a private jet, name it Cooper Air, and fly all over the world. And who's gonna fly it? Well, we'll hire a pilot. And are we really going to trust someone who agrees to work for Cooper Air? Linda rolls her eyes and flips to the next page. Fine, next option. We buy an alpaca farm. Oh, now we're talking. We'll raise them, shear them, sell their wool, and... Linda, we have $214 million. Why do we need to sell wool? Well, just to have something to do. I look at her and realize Linda has officially lost control. Okay, let's keep it simple. I say, stretching. Something that doesn't involve alpaca maintenance, a pilot's license, or moving to an uninhabited island. Linda takes a dramatic pause. Let's buy a restaurant. I snort. You want to spend millions to work? Not just work. It'll be a special place. Imagine a cozy spot where people come in and it smells like fresh pastries. Wait, I thought you were talking about a restaurant. Well, I haven't decided yet, but something warm, inviting, where we could cook ourselves. I pause. Unlike Linda, I never dreamed of owning a restaurant. But this idea was a lot more realistic than an island full of parrots. You know, that actually doesn't sound bad. We decided not to tell anyone. Not our relatives, not our friends, not even our neighbors, who always seemed to know exactly how much everyone made and who left their trash cans out on the wrong day. Can you imagine what would happen if they found out? Linda continued, waving her hands dramatically. Your mom would immediately ask for an eternal cruise. My brother would suddenly become a startup founder. And the neighbors? Oh, they try to sell us their lawn because, according to them, it's a great investment. I sighed. She had a point. All right, but are you sure you can keep quiet about this? Linda lifted her chin confidently. I am a rock. Since we were keeping our jackpot a secret, Linda kept brainstorming smart ways to spend our fortune. What if we buy a ranch and start breeding mini cows? Mini cows? Yes, they're adorable, like dogs, but they produce milk. Okay, what about a chain of vending machines that serve fresh, hot muffins? You mean, like, you put in a coin and out pops a muffin? Exactly. Linda, we live in a country where soda machines constantly eat people's dollars. People will riot if they don't get their muffin. Fine. What about a cafe just for dogs? I was about to bury my face in my hands, but then I paused. Wait, that's actually kind of interesting. Linda froze. You're joking. No. Have you seen how much people spend on their dogs? They'd gladly drop more money on them than on themselves. Maybe we really should start something of our own. Linda's lips curled into a sly grin. So a cafe after all. I just smirked. We didn't know exactly what it would be yet, but there was definitely something there. 6 months had passed since we became millionaires. In that time, our life had changed completely, and we finally managed to live out our American dreams. But with a Cooper twist. Here's how it all went down. When you've spent most of your life wearing clothes that could be called old but reliable, it's safe to say, it's time for a change. Linda, of course, was on cloud 9 because her dream had come true, a wardrobe like Hollywood stars. I even got a little scared when she came back with a bag full of clothes that seemed like they could feed an entire city. She promised that from now on, I wouldn't have a single t-shirt with a hole under my armpits. And she kept her word. As for me, being the true man I am, I decided that a new style starts with a new hat and jeans. My old baseball cap and worn-out pants were history. Now I was ready to face the world with a fresh mindset and a brand new wardrobe. Honestly, I didn't even believe I could look like a guy who had more than $2 in his wallet. Our old house was cozy, but always a little too small. Especially when you become a millionaire and your kids start turning into local hurricanes that tear apart every corner of the house. I always joke that even if we lived in a mansion like the royal families, Emily and Zach would still manage to destroy it in 2 days. So we moved into a house we could call our fortress. 2 stories, a spacious kitchen, 3 bathrooms, so the kids could finally stop fighting over who gets to use the bathroom first, and a huge living room for pizza parties. And of course, a garage for the new cars. So now our family could actually drive without relying on a random guy pushing us for gas at the station. Oh yeah, we were ready. You see, before we were driving the old Toyota, and I was always ready to explain why it wouldn't start in the mornings. But now, a new red Chevrolet for Linda and a black Jeep for me. We looked like a couple who had just won the lottery, and there was no doubt that we were. The cars were shiny and cool, and now, when I pulled up to the house, everyone knew. There's Cooper with his new wheels. I think even the neighbors started smiling a little wider. Now for the main thing, opening our bakery. When we started, we had no clue how hard this would be. All the licenses, suppliers, interior design. It seemed like for every cup of flour, we had to fill out 10 pages of paperwork. And if we weren't millionaires, we would have probably chosen an easier life. But not this time. We decided to push through and create the perfect bakery where Linda could work her magic with dough. And so, after several months of paperwork and orders for chairs with the right curves, we stood before the empty building. The smell of fresh paint filled the air, and there was a slight nostalgia, because this was the place where our new life began. Well, here we are, I said, inhaling the air like it was the scent of future success. Linda, with her signature smile, patted me on the shoulder. We did it. The Coopers are not just rich, we're creative. We peered into the empty bakery and started discussing how the first display case with fresh pastries would look, how it would smell like cinnamon and vanilla, and how, finally, we would open our doors to the world, relying on a business that, as Linda said, would be the best in town. It's been a couple of weeks, and honestly, Linda and I started to think that this whole thing was just one big fairy tale nightmare. The bakery looked perfect. We spent a ton of money on brand new cookie cutters in the shape of stars, bears, and hearts, which could make even the most hardcore critic fall in love. The sign on the door shined like neon lights in Las Vegas, and our cafe even smelled extra special. You know, like in those movies where everything is easy and the characters bake a pie and instantly become millionaires. But here's the reality. Every morning we opened the door, and it creaked like it was the door of the most abandoned factory in America. We sat there like two hidden magnates, but in reality, we looked like two guys who had just lost all their money on the lottery. Linda, when's this flow of customers gonna start? I said, looking at the empty bakery like it was an empty bottle of wine nobody drank. Don't worry, John. We just need to wait. This is the American dream. We just started, she said confidently, like an experienced coach before the final match. But nothing happened. Silence. Linda and I started checking our business Instagram page, wondering, why does every second baker in this town make a fortune on pastry sculptures, while we're still stuck? John, maybe we should have a muffin party? Do you think if people see the word party, they'll just show up? Linda suggested, clutching her coffee cup like it was the key to our success. Linda, if I see the word party on our door, people will think we're baking something for drug dealers, not muffins. Let's not play with fire, I said, but she wasn't listening. A few days later, a miracle happened. Our first customer. He walked in like a character from a good comedy, smiling like he'd just won the lottery. Linda and I exchanged a glance like we had just hit the jackpot. He ordered a blueberry muffin and stood at the counter like he was ready for an adventure across America. You guys have muffin magic, huh? He asked, sniffing the air like he expected the muffin to grant his wishes. Linda, smiling from ear to ear, looked like she could start her own culinary academy at that very moment. Yes, we have magic here, like in the fairy tale movies. Actually, every muffin is a secret formula for happiness. And you know what? That guy became our first regular customer. He came back again and again, and we started to feel that our muffins weren't just food. They were magic that attracted people. Of course, we still didn't know how to become famous, but we definitely knew one thing. Every day with this business felt like a good joke. Day by day, our bakery became more and more fun, and not because of the customers. There were only 3, but thanks to the magic of our muffins. You should have seen the puzzled look on my face every time I looked at these little masterpieces, wondering what on earth was going on. It all started with that first customer who came back to the bakery, kissed our sign, well, almost, and ordered another muffin. We started to suspect that it wasn't just about our baking, but about the atmosphere we had created. But when this guy, named Bob, made a wish, we began to wonder. This is the kind of flavor that can only be called magical, he said, chewing the last bite of his blueberry muffin, and then added, I wish my wife would stop nagging me when I take her to the cabin. Linda and I exchanged glances, and I winked at her. So that's what was going on with our muffins. They were granting wishes. Bob, you do realize we can't guarantee all wishes come true, right? I said, trying to keep a straight face. But here's the strange part. Just a few days later, his wife called and said that he had finally convinced her to go to the cabin. Bob was shocked, and Linda and I started to slowly believe that there really was some magic in those muffins. Then it started happening with other customers. A woman named Karen came in and ordered a nut muffin. She sat down, ate it, and said, "I've always dreamed of becoming an interior designer. If I had the money, I would open my own business." She left, and we didn't think much of it, until a week later she came back with amazing news. She landed a project with a big hotel. Linda and I decided it was time to test these muffins on everyone. And so it went. We always had some movement in the bakery, and people came in, made their wishes, and then something happened. I even thought about connecting these muffins to real advertising, but Linda immediately said, "Wait, John, don't turn our business into a circus. This has to be the real deal. We're creating magic, not marketing." Fair enough. But who would have thought that our wish-granting muffins would become the cherry on top of our bakery, which eventually started to take off? But what happened next? I can't even begin to explain. One day, a guy in a suit walks into our cozy little bakery, and, for some strange reason, he orders not one, but 2 muffins. Now, I thought to myself, all right, not every day you get someone like that in here. Maybe he's just a fan of the sweet stuff. He sits down, takes a bite of our muffin, and suddenly his face starts changing. At first, I thought he had bitten into something inedible, like a piece of packaging, or maybe someone had hidden car keys in there. But no, his face literally lit up. This is unbelievable. This is like the muffin and life, the perfect combination. I, of course, threw out my signature grin, the one I put on when I'm in the kitchen losing fingers, but still pushing through the bake. "Is something wrong?" I asked, trying to hide the fact that I, too, had no idea what was so magical about these muffins. He squinted at me and said, No, it's the opposite. It's amazing. I have a hotel chain, and we're always looking for something new for our guests. This muffin is magic. I'm going to start ordering these for all my hotels." At that moment, I almost tripped over a chair, but caught myself because, working behind the counter requires invisible self-control. I might have screamed with excitement, but Linda was in the corner trying not to laugh, so I, like the true professional I am, said, "Of course, no problem. We can do weekly deliveries, frozen or fresh. But if you'd like, we can come up with a special recipe just for your hotels, something like turbo muffins." He laughed and then said, "Turbo muffins? That sounds like a new trend. Let's make it happen, and you'll have a contract for life." And that's how we, the Coopers, started supplying turbo muffins to hotels across the state. We became the go-to muffin supplier that people were talking about in restaurants, gas stations, and even on social media, where everyone was saying, "If you want magic, get yourself some turbo muffins." Who would have thought that we, the Coopers, would go from a little bakery to official muffin suppliers for the hospitality industry? It all started with one customer visit that left us with smiles and a whole load of orders. Now our bakery wasn't just a bakery anymore. It was a full-on magnet for business people, and our muffins weren't just served with coffee. They were bringing good luck. And just like that, thanks to the guy who fell in love with our muffins, we became part of the hotel business, and everything took off. It was one of those mornings when our shop was buzzing with life and energy. The cafe smelled of fresh muffins, and I thought to myself, I just can't handle another instance of our cozy little spot being packed with people. Suddenly, the door opened, and in rushed a guy. A sharp suit, thick glasses that made him look like a character straight out of a spy movie, and a face that said he'd probably been awake for 2 weeks straight, carefully analyzing every move he made. He came in like he had just stepped out of a secret mission, sat down at a window table without saying a word. It was a little strange, but I thought, just another one of those typical task-oriented people we get around here sometimes. But here's what really threw me off. He didn't order coffee. No, he ordered 2 muffins, 1 chocolate and 1 strawberry. Nothing special. But then, this was something else. He starts delicately disassembling the muffins. Just calmly, he twists the top off the chocolate muffin and begins to carefully drop it into a cup of water. Honestly, I couldn't believe my eyes. This wasn't just eating. This was like some secret culinary code. "What the heck are you doing?" I couldn't help it and went over to him. He looked at me, and his eyes immediately became serious, like I had just asked him about national security secrets. This is a tasting technique. As a critic, I must examine every element and understand what's inside the muffin. I was about to burst out laughing, but I kept it together. Linda, who had been standing nearby, noticed the whole scene and came over with 2 cups of coffee. "Are you kidding me?" she asked, trying to figure out what kind of extreme muffin manipulation this guy was doing. "You see," he suddenly said, "I feel like this is not just a muffin. It's almost philosophy. Like music, like art." At this point, I had no idea how to respond. But he kept going. "The chocolate muffin has a balance of sweetness and bitterness, while the strawberry one, it's like the morning sunrise. But if there's one wrong element, it'll ruin everything. So I'm testing." Honestly, I felt like I should be writing all of this down. Someone who dissects muffins like they're works of art instead of just eating them. This was weird. After all these maneuvers, he finally pulled out a notebook and wrote down, This is 10 out of 10. I can't add anything. My heart is a muffin." With those words, he got up, paid, and without even looking at us, scampered off in some unknown direction. A few days later, we found out who this mysterious man was. Turns out, he was one of the most rigorous restaurant critics in the city. He left us a glowing review and told all of his connections about our bakery. Linda and I were in shock. Was he really a critic? I couldn't believe it. "You know, John, I think if we started baking muffins for spies, they'd definitely take notice too," Linda said, laughing. So, friends, not all mysterious customers are weird characters. Sometimes they might be the ones who turn your place into a true legend. It had been a few days since that strange visit, and to be honest, I still couldn't get that typical special agent guy out of my head with his mysterious muffin maneuvers. There was definitely something supernatural going on in our cafe that day. I remember standing behind the counter, washing dishes, when I caught a glimpse of him out of the corner of my eye. He was back. This time, his outfit wasn't so spy-like, but his manners were just as bizarre as before. He ordered 2 muffins again, chocolate and strawberry, sat at the same corner, carefully removed the tops of the muffins, and began soaking them in cups of water. I was starting to feel like he was conducting experiments, not eating. But here's what really got me. He started writing something down in a notebook, but it wasn't just writing. It was like he was decoding something. He even muttered to himself under his breath, almost as if he was trying to decipher the meaning of every bite. "This all matters." I almost overheard him mutter quietly, taking a strange pause. "Not just muffins, I need to understand what they're saying." Linda was standing next to me, laughing. She thought this weird guy was just some guy with issues. Well, honestly, I thought the same thing, but deep down, something was nagging me. There was something off about this. Why was this guy acting like a secret agent? And then, just like that, he disappeared. Just like he had appeared. With the same spy-like flair, like he vanished into thin air. Linda and I exchanged confused glances, but all we could do was laugh and move on. No big deal, right? A few weeks passed, and then, one day, on the weekend while we were cleaning up the bakery, in walks none other than Mr. Muffin himself. But this time, he wasn't alone. He came with a group, all dressed in expensive suits and carrying tablets, jotting down notes. I felt like something important was about to happen. The man looked at us with a smile and said, "Guys, we're not here by accident." Linda and I exchanged a look. I was ready for the worst, but this guy continued. "I'm James White, a critic, and I'm not just here to rate restaurants. I'm here to evaluate new flavors. Everything you create isn't just baked goods. It's art." We froze. Linda looked at me in confusion, and I was speechless. "Do you understand that everything you're doing with these muffins is like new forms, new sensations for people? All these flavors and textures. This isn't just dough, it's like alchemy," he went on, as if revealing the secrets of the universe to us. We couldn't believe our ears. In complete shock, all I could say was, "So you're a critic?" He laughed. "Not just a critic. I'm the one who can turn your bakery into a legend. You're looking for magic, and I've brought it to you." It took us a while to process that this mysterious man, who had literally guided us through a maze of flavors and meanings, was one of the strictest restaurant critics in the country. It couldn't be true. This guy, who at any moment could have written up a spy mission, had actually written a glowing review about us, making us famous across America. Linda and I were in total shock. All this time, we thought he was just some muffin-obsessed maniac, but it turned out he was the one who wrote us a fantastic review in one of the most prestigious food publications. Now our cafe was in the spotlight. With us landing at the top of the critic rankings, we quickly became the place whose turbocharged muffins not only gave people a boost of energy, but also became a part of American culinary mythology.